Thank you so much, everybody who came for 5:30. We're starting just a little bit before 6. We have a wonderful guest that I've had the extraordinary pleasure to moderate multiple times here at Dallas. How many of you are fans of a little show called Batman the Animated Series? So just one or two. Let's go ahead and bring him out. Mr. Kevin Conroy.
Hello, everybody. Well, it's been a great turnout here. I mean, it's huge. I've been going since 9:30 this morning, and the line never stopped. So everybody's been great, really great.
Now, I've got a few questions for Kevin. How many of you have seen one of Kevin's Q&As here at Fan Expo Dallas? Bunch of you. He's always got new stories every time you come. We are going to take questions from you guys out in the audience. This is a very special year. This is the 25th anniversary of the animated series, going back to '92.
Yeah. You know, it's funny, when you audition for a job, you have no idea what's going to happen. I had never even done I had never done an animated voice. It was the first audition I did. I had done commercial voiceovers because in the theater in New York, I was basically a New York theater actor. And then in the theater in New York, you soon learn that they just don't pay enough to survive. So you have to do other stuff during the day to pay for the theater at night. And I was doing commercial voiceovers. A lot of New York actors do that. And then I was in LA working on a short-lived series. And the commercial voiceover agent that I used said, you know, they're putting together this new show over at Warner Brothers. Why don't you go over and audition for it? It's Batman. I said, Batman new? I said, that's been around forever. They said, well, they've never actually done an animated show. I didn't even know it had never been an animated show. So I was a total novice to all this whole world. And I had to really come up to speed on everything Batman. Because when I went in and I met Bruce Timm, Paul Dini, Andrea Romano, I mean, this is like the A-team. And I didn't know who any of them were. I didn't know anything about this world. And Bruce Timm said, well, what is your exposure to Batman? I said, well, I know the Adam West series from the 70s. And he said, no, that's not what we're doing. Erase your memory. Everyone loved that show, but that was different. That was a very different take. And he told me, you know, this is very noir. This is very dramatic. This is, he's lost his parents when he was a child. He's avenging their deaths. And I thought, wow, this is a very dark, tragic story. I had no idea. You know, I just known it as Zam Pop Bow from the 70s show. And he explained it to me, and I said, well, you're really telling the classic story of a tragic hero, like a Hamlet character. And I just approached it from a theatrical perspective, because that was my background. And so I just, you know, in the audition, I put myself into the place I thought that type of voice would come from. And it just sent me to a very dark, just a very dark place, sort of a dark night of the soul, what that would sound like. And that's what the voice came out of. And I honestly think, in hindsight, the fact that I had no experience with it at all, and I had no idea who I was meeting, I knew nothing about animation, really, was so liberating. I didn't feel any pressure. I didn't feel any intimidation, because I didn't know who any of these people were. They didn't intimidate me, because, you know, I didn't know who they were. So I was totally free in the situation to improvise and to let my imagination go. And they had seen over 500 actors at that point, because they knew this was going to be a big deal. They were putting a lot of money into the show. And they hired me on the spot. They said, you know, we've been looking for months, and that's it. That's the sound we want. And once you've established a voice, once you've established a sound, once you've established a character, thousands of people can imitate you. People come up to me at the cons all the time and go, listen to me do you. And then they'll do a very convincing version of me, and I say, well, now I have to kill you because I want to keep my job. But what they're paying you for, what the studio's paying you for, is the idea, the initial idea. Because it's a little secret about Hollywood. They never know what they want. You go into auditions and you always say, what are you looking for? And they say, well, just show us something. Just give us your ideas. Because they don't know what they want. They'll know it when they see it or hear it. They will really know it. But they don't know until they see it. So it's very humbling when you think there are probably half a dozen actors who could do the role as well as I could do it, or as anyone could do any role. But they didn't think of doing it at the audition. They just didn't have the idea. And so they didn't get it. And so the other guy got to establish it. And then you establish that sound, and then other people can ape you. I mean, there are lots of great imitations of Mark Hamill, but Mark Hamill thought of it. You know, he thought of that voice first. And that was what was so inspiring. So that's often what you're being hired for, is your ability to improvise on the spot, your imagination, your ability to create something out of nothing. Because once it's created, then lots of people can imitate you. That's a little secret of Hollywood.
Back when I interviewed Andrea Romano, she said, like you said, they said, that's the voice we've been looking for. She phrased it like this. She said, it was as if the clouds had parted and the voice came down from heaven.
Came down.
And, you know, you mentioned that this was your first voice role, and what was it like being guided by a voice director like the incomparable Andrea Romano?
The great thing about Andrea, I don't know if you all know, she started out as an acting student at State University of New York. She wanted to be in the theater. She soon realized that she was not going to be an actress, so she got into casting, to agenting. She was originally an agent. And then, you know, as everything in life, one thing leads to another, leads to another. She ultimately got into casting. She kind of found her way there. But because she started as an actress, she likes actors. And she understands how actors think. And another little secret about Hollywood is that they don't like actors. Most people don't like actors. They resent them. They see them as sort of egotistical children that have to be endured. They think they're overpaid, pampered, and just, there's a lot of directors and producers and casting people who really don't like actors. Andrea loves actors. She understands how hard the life is. She understands the way we think. She understands the way you approach characters. If you just give someone a line reading, you'll get a feedback of the line reading, but it'll always sound like what you gave them. It'll always sound like you imitating someone else. Andrea knows that. So rather than giving you the line reading, she will give you the motivation to get to the line reading. She will tell you what the character's thinking, and hopefully you get to where she wants you to go so that it's organic. That's what acting's about. It's about coming up with organic things from inside of you. And that way it really sounds uniquely like something you've come up with. And Andrea's great at talking to actors that way, putting things in the vocabulary that actors need to lead them to what she wants them to get to.
Now, in those days, it was more common that you would have these group recording sessions where it was like a radio theater troupe.
Yeah.
What was going into that experience like? You had your regular cast. You had
Wow.
Lauren Lester. You had these guys that were in TV shows that have been syndicated for decades.
But
now.
to be in a studio, Warner Brothers likes to insist on getting everyone in a room together and do it as a radio play, which was very unique. Disney, a lot of the other studios like to do very separate takes, because when you have a completely separate take, it's completely clean. And so in post-production, it's much easier to manipulate and control. When it's a group recording, it's harder to differentiate, you know, to get a clean take on each voice. But when you get a group recording, you get much better performances. And Warner Brothers knows that, because actors feed each other. The energy in the room is just alive. When Mark and I are together, He makes me a better actor. Roddy McDowell. Can you imagine going to a recording studio with Mark Hamill, Roddy McDowell?
Walk into work and there's Paul Williams.
Paul Williams, Ephraim Zimbalist Jr., Gene Smart, Adrienne Barbeau. I mean, it was just such a crazy mix of actors. Everyone. Ice-T showed up at one week, and I said, "What are you doing here? You're a rap star." It was before he did Law and Order. And he said, "You kid mad? My kids are gonna shit when they see my voice in the show."
I think Ice-T is one of the most underappreciated cross.
Well, this was before he had done, Law and Order, so I was like, "Why is a rap star here?" He said, "This is a cool show. I want to do a cool show." So it just got to be known that everyone wanted to be on this show, that it was a hot show to do. Richard Mall, Ron Perlman was Clayface. It's amazing groups, amazing people.
Take us back to those early days. What was it like starting the show? Was it something that you guys had an appreciation for being something that was going to take off the way that it did?
No.
Or was it just a complete mystery?
No, it was a total mystery. It was no one knew. The first, when you record animation, you're the first part of the process. We don't record to the artwork. They paint the artwork to our recordings. So we're the first stage. So when you're doing a new show that's never been on before, they show you sketches of what the character's going to look like, but you don't really know what the whole world is going to look like. You don't know what the show's going to what it's going to encompass. You just have a sort of a sketch of what your character's going to be. So for 6 months, we were recording episodes. That's a lot of episodes. Really just using our imaginations. Then about 6 months later, they start coming back from the artists. And there's a process called ADR, when you sync up the soundtrack to the visuals. And there's always extra mouth flaps, there are fight scenes, there are scenes that need extra dubbing and recording and synchronizing. That's called ADR. So in ADR, it's the first time you actually see what the show is going to look like. So in a brand new show, for 6 months, we didn't know what the show was going to look like. So the first ADR session I was in was with Mark Hamill. And we're both sitting in there in the studio, and it's Ed Warner Brothers, and there's a huge screen, and this massive color, explosion of color comes up on the screen, and the full symphony Shirley Walker score, and the drama of Batman slinging through. And I looked over at Mark and I said, "Did you have a clue that this is what this was going to look like?" And his mouth was hanging up. He said, "I did not have an eye." He said, "This is unbelievable. This is so beautiful." So we really didn't know the scope of what it was going to look like when we were doing the initial recordings. We were just acting, as well as we could. Once we saw it, all of us, everyone was blown away. But like everything in life, you never know what's going to happen. Life is what's happening. Life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans. You can never really plan on what's going to happen. No matter how hard you plan in college, but believe me, something else is going to happen. So you get an order for 16 episodes for Batman the Animated Series. I had no idea if there'd be more than 16 episodes done. I didn't know it would go on for years. And when that was done, that they do the Adventures of Batman and Robin, and then that would turn into Batman Beyond, and that would turn into the Justice League, and that would turn into the Arkham Asylum series of games, and all the direct-to-video movies, and now JLA, the new show. I mean, 25 years later, you look back and you realize, wow, I've created an anthology of work. But while you're doing it, you're not thinking that as you're doing it. You're just jumping from stone to stone to stone through life, trying to get across the river, right? Like everybody does. And then suddenly you look back and you think, wow, I've created a legacy. But you don't know it while you're doing it, you know what I mean? That life is weird that way. Life is weird. That's what I always tell young people when I'm talking to them is, be prepared. Study. Because I promise you, no matter what you think you're going to do in life, you're going to do something else. Because just life throws curveballs. That's all it throws. And you've got to be ready to hit them. And if you hit them, you'll just knock them out of the park. And if you can't hit them, you'll be left wondering what went wrong. You just got, life is just such a variable. And it's never what you think it's going to be, especially in Hollywood.
Even beyond the various extensions of the franchise, the direct-to-video movies, the additional series, that sort of thing, I know that I speak for myself, and I think many of us here in this room, that you are really the definitive Batman of our generation.
Thank you.
And people think about iconic lines that identify, the persona that defines a particular character. And for me, it goes back to that early line that just set the tone of the whole series. That sometimes, if we're lucky, you will bless us as an audience. You are something.
I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman. I mean, what an image. What an image. I am the night. What an image. I am the night. Oh my God, it's so poetic. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful.
Really engages the theater of the mind. Now
It's such a theatrical character.
Yeah.
And I think I really related to Batman. Once I got into him, I really related to the character on a personal level. The reason I think he's so iconic and people relate to him so much is he has no superpowers. He's just a person. And he's a person who's so damaged. I mean, think about it. He's really got issues. And he takes that challenge that life threw him, and instead of letting it make him bitter, he turns it around. And he turns it into a force for good. And that's such a lesson for everyone. I love that about him. I love the fact that he never kills any of the villains. Batman does not kill. He puts them in Arkham. But he doesn't kill anybody. He can't. That's the whole thing at the end of The Killing Joke. Is he driven to kill? And they didn't even answer it there. They left it up to the audience because it's such an important question. They didn't want to answer that for the audience. They wanted the audience to answer that themselves. But that's Joker's challenge to him. Joker can't believe that he could be that good. He can't believe it. He has to believe that if he defiles the most important thing to Bruce Wayne, Barbara Gordon, if he just ruins her, cripples her, that would drive Bruce insane, and he would kill. And maybe he does, but that's left up to the audience to decide. But he's such a noble character. But I love the fact that he's mortal, he's damaged, he's got no superpowers, and yet he manages to rise above the crap that comes his way and do something good. I love that about him, and everyone loves that about him. That's why people relate to him so much. I had a young woman come up to me at Chicago Comic-Con last year, and she said, young woman, she was in her 20s, to me that's young. She said, I just always wanted to give you a hug to thank you. And I said, well, sure, come on, let's have a hug. I said, what happened? She said, I grew up in the projects on the south side of Chicago. Most of my friends that I grew up with are either dead or in prison. And I am a professional, and I have a life, and I have a career. And it's because I had Batman every afternoon as a lesson. When other kids were getting into trouble, my mother didn't let me go out and get in trouble. I said, well, then you should be thanking your mother. But I said, you have you to thank for all of this. You're the one who got you out of that. You overcame all that, like Bruce Wayne overcomes his tragedies. But she used Batman and the Bruce Wayne character as the motivation, as the focus for her. And I hear stories like that all the time from people about what the story, what the show meant to them growing up. Lots of kids grow up in horrible situations, and they just need someone that they can believe in. My family were alcoholics. I've been on my own since I was 17. I got a scholarship to go to Juilliard. I moved into New York. I got my first apartment when I was 17. But I was 6'2", and I had a voice this deep. No one knew I was 17. Everyone assumed I was 20. And I've been supporting myself ever since. But you just have to get over that crap, you know? You can't let it crush you. But I got heavy into alcohol as a teenager. I got heavy into drugs, which was bizarre since I'd been raised in a house of alcoholics. So the last thing I would do was drink. But it was like a hand reaching up and grabbing me, and I realized, oh my God, this is kind of chemical. This is something. This is obviously a problem in this family. And at 21, I just stopped drinking. I stopped smoking. I stopped doing drugs, and that was it. I thought it's sink or swim. And you just have to take control of your fate like that, like Bruce Wayne does. And that's the aspect of the character that I related to, was my own experience in life. I thought, this is something I can really draw on. This is something I can really relate to. Life is such an amazing journey. You know, the thing that gets to me is how you keep having to learn the same lessons over and over again. Every now and then I learn a lesson again and I think, damn, why didn't I get this the first time? Why did I have to go through this again? But you know, life just keeps on banging you on the head until you get it. You know, thick head, eventually get it.
You got to Juilliard, and you were there in an era where there were other notable names like yours just running around.
But it's like the first day going into audition with Bruce Timm and Paul DeAndre and Manama. I didn't know who I was dealing with at Juilliard. I was 16. My class included Kelsey Grammer, Robin Williams, Francis Conroy from 6 Feet Under. The upperclassmen were Christopher Reeve, Mandy Patinkin, Christine Baranski. People who were recently graduated were Kevin Kline, Patti LuPone. I mean, it was just, you know, but none of those careers had been established yet. We were all kids. Robin and I lived together for 2 years, sharing an apartment. He was the only one there as poor as me. He would actually steal my food out of the refrigerator. But he was very sneaky. He'd like take nibbles out of things. So he wouldn't think you'd notice. And I once said, there's a mouse, we've got a mouse in this house because my cheese is going away bit by bit. It's just, you know, getting slightly and slightly smaller. But, so we were all stealing food from each other. But yeah, it was an amazing time to be there. Robin was kind of an intimidating guy to be around because his comic sense was genius, and we all knew it was genius. You just knew that he was in a league of his own. He would create these characters, and they were just full-blown characters, you know. But he was a bit older. I was 17, he was 22. You know, he was having tortured relationships with women, and I was still popping pimples. You know, there was just different places in our lives.
It sounds like a really great sitcom, if you ask me.
Well, actually, that apartment, it actually would be a funny sitcom. I know.
So how did your training at Juilliard? I mean, Juilliard doesn't just, you know, add water and turn you into a superstar. What was it that training did for you in finding your way as you have over the years since?
John Houseman, the first day of school, said, look to the person to your right, look to the person to your left. They won't be here in 4 years. See to it that you are. Have a good time. You know, it was incredibly competitive. So people always say, you know, who are your friends still from Juilliard? I don't have a lot of friends from Juilliard because we were all so competitive with each other. It was really sink or swim. And at the end of each year, they would go around and hand out pink slips. And if you were given a pink slip, you were not invited back for the next year. That last day was always really scary, especially for the scholarship students, because, you know, I didn't know how I was going to support myself if I didn't get invited back. But luckily, I made it through. But, you know, people got cut all the time. Really talented people would get cut because they drank too much, or they were slacking off, or they weren't showing up for classes. You would just get cut. Some people who would shock you who got cut. It was pretty ruthless. But I saw some amazing performances, and I think about the people that I was surrounded by. It was really incredible.
Now correct me if this apocryphal story I've heard is or is not true. Were Batman and Superman almost roommates?
Almost.
Almost.
Christopher had access to a really incredible floor through in a new area being developed. This is 74, called Soho in New York. And it was a floor through of a building. But I was paying $100 a month, in a rooming house in a sort of a slummy building on the Upper West Side. And he wanted, this place was going to be $400 a month for a floor through in Soho with big high ceilings and big windows. And so he wanted someone who would pay $200, half of that, and I couldn't swing it. But I went down and I looked at it and I thought, oh God, I would love to live here. So I couldn't do it. He did it. I think he may have done it with Robin. He did it with somebody else. But then Robin and I ended up living together in a place that for an entire floor of a brownstone was $400 a month. Isn't that amazing?
You don't get anywhere approaching that.
Oh my God! It'd be $6,000 a month now. It'd be crazy.
Well, back to Batman, as that franchise expanded past the original animated series, whether it was one of the movies, one of the games, was there one of those projects that you felt especially let you branch out even further than you had with the character? There's so much that's in those original 60-some-odd episodes. But was there one of those projects where you feel like you got to really break?
Chance to Dream. That's a wonderful episode. Mm-hmm. He's drugged. He goes back to his childhood. He's fantasizing that he's seeing his father. So I had to pay Batman and Bruce Wayne, and then I had to be drugged Batman, and then I had to be adolescent Batman, Bruce Wayne, and then I was Thomas Wayne, the father. So I was doing 5 voices, who all had to be believably related, but distinctly different characters. So that was such a wonderful acting challenge. And that really, I love the episodes that delve into his psychology, into what makes him damaged. Perchance to Dream, Dreamscape, Mask of the Phantasm. One of my favorite scenes is when he's at the grave of his parents, and he's pleading with them to release him from the vow he's made to avenge their deaths. Because he's fallen in love with this woman. He's finally found love, and he wants to have a normal life. But as he's pleading with them, this massive flock of bats comes up out of this cave, and you realize he will never be released from this vow. It's that dark undertow that's pulling him back down. I love that scene. So any of those scenes that explore the psychology of Bruce Wayne, as an actor, I just love exploring.
You had this amazing supporting cast in the show itself, and as it led to the expansion into Superman the Animated Series, Justice League, you really led the charge of the whole DC universe, and you were the, I guess you would say, the first point in the trident of the DC trinity of Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman.
Yeah.
What was it like welcoming these people into this, I don't know, fraternity?
Well, what was so wonderful is that Andrea is such a great casting director. So she always picked actors who played well. Actors are people. There are generous ones and selfish ones. There are givers and there are takers. And Andrea loves to hire givers because she knows that's what it takes to create something beautiful. So Tim Daly as Superman, he and I get along so well. He's such a great guy. We recently did a podcast. He does a podcast called The Daily Show, if you ever get a chance to see it.
D-A-L-Y.
D-A-L-Y. If you ever get a chance to see it, I did one where Batman is like haunting him in his apartment. It is so funny. But to work with him in his apartment with his son Sam, who he loves and who loves his father. I thought, this is the healthiest father-son relationship I've ever seen. It was such a pleasure. He's a wonderful guy. So Andre just casts great people for the roles that are always such a pleasure to work with.
I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about, I mean, we've got a live action movie coming out later this year, Wonder Woman, but before that, the Wonder Woman we've had is Susan Eisenberg,
Yeah.
the amazing and wonderful. And she,
With the sexiest voice I think I've ever heard.
you know what? She returns the compliment. Every opportunity she has to bring up Kevin Conroy's name, she says, oh, that one time when we got to see, what if Diana and Bruce, maybe there's something there.
She has a very, very, very sexy voice.
Now, I want to get some questions from the audience. This is a big Q&A, so start thinking of them. I'm going to go to you first. I've got one more before we turn it over to you guys. You said that it's been this 25-year phenomenon. There is new merchandise every year. There are art prints. There are vinyl records. There are new toys every year at San Diego Comic-Con of every single character that you ever saw in the animated series. You know, guy number 3 in the background. Is there a piece of Batman the Animated Series merchandise that someone's brought to you to have signed that has just baffled you? Or even in early convention appearances that it surprised you that such a thing existed?
Well, the most amazing thing I saw that I was surprised existed was a Kevin Conroy doll that a guy created. And he had it in the clamshell and everything, in the packaging, and it was me. It was my face. And it came with a little Batman mask, you know, the cape and cowl. You could dress him up to be Batman. I said, how did you do this? He said, oh, it took a lot of work. I was so complimented. But the most amazing thing, I have a nice collection because I started collecting these things early on. I have all the Batman, the maquettes I think are so beautiful. All the maquettes from all the different variations, from the earliest ones to the most recent. I think are beautiful artwork. I have one piece. You're gonna be so jealous. I was going into the Warner Brothers executive area, which, you know, the actors never get to go into. And I was signing some papers. And as I was waiting in the waiting room, I saw this really cool, made out of wrought iron. It's a cityscape of Gotham City with cutouts of all the windows of the building made out of wrought iron. And it's a statue. And then there's a pendulum in front of it that swings on an arm. And the pendulum is Batman swinging through the cityscape of Gotham. And the whole thing is lit up from behind with a neon light. It's a neon sculpture. And then
I'm worried we're about to get a heist story.
Yeah. And in the foreground, there's Mr. Freeze shooting his gun, and coming out of the gun is a big green swoosh. The word swoosh in neon. So everything about this thing, I looked at it and I went, I mean, I'm sort of a hobby artist. I thought I'd like to paint. And I looked at this and I thought, this is unbelievable. This is so beautiful. It's like the whole Batman world, and it's in this sculpture. So I said jokingly, to the people I was signing papers with, I said, you know, when you're changing the decoration in here someday, can I, and this is going to be put in storage, can I just put my dibs in on it? I just wanted you to know, I think this is the most awesome thing I've ever seen. So a couple of years later, I get a phone call. And they said, we're closing down those offices, and you were the first one to ever put his dibs in on that thing. I said, are you serious? He said, yeah, we voted and we think you deserve it. You've done so much work for us. You get it. I said, oh my God. So that's my prized possession. It's so cool. It's so cool. It's like a Warhol. I mean, it's so unique. There are only 3 of them made by a sculptor in San Francisco. And I have one of them.
Any idea where the other 2 are?
No. No, it's really cool.
All right, let's get your questions ready. I believe we have a Ninja Turtle over here. Yes.
Hey.
Yes, there we go. Go right ahead.
So my question was, how was it
on the JLA, the new show, Justice League Action?
The Killing Joke.
Oh, The Killing Joke. Well, unfortunately, you know, we always work together, Mark and I, and we work so well together. Unfortunately, his career has gone through a major renaissance recently.
He's working on these independent films.
He's been really busy with something called Star Wars. So he was off in Ireland or something shooting, so we did not get to work together on this. Isn't that shocking? But we'd worked together so much over the years. I knew exactly what he was going to do, and he knew what I was going to do. So unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to work with him on this one. I personally thought there was a lot of controversy about the first half hour of the movie because it isn't what was in The Killing Joke in the comic book, and it was added. And a lot of people thought it was a little too sentimental, a little too romantic. It wasn't the action-adventure Batman stuff. But let me explain to you why they did that. They did that because The Killing Joke is a very short story, very short. And there was no way to do that as a feature film unless you padded it. And if you pad a story, it feels padded. You know, it loses its force. It loses its passion. It loses something when there's a lot of filler in it. I hate filler. And Bruce Timm did not want to put a lot of filler in it, so we thought, well, one other way of making it longer is to give it a prequel, to give it like a story that leads up to The Killing Joke. So that's what that first 20 minutes is with the Barbara Gordon story. And it feeds directly into it. But it was a way for them to make a feature film without destroying the power and the essence of The Killing Joke. And that was the one thing some people had issue with. They thought it was a little too...
Well, and the how it was done, you know, that aside, it actually gave a narrative arc to Tara Strong's...
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it fed in dramatically, completely. But you do have to wait 20, 25 minutes to get to The Killing Joke. And I think that frustrated some people. But I think if people understood why they did it, they would appreciate it more. And see it for what it is. It is a dramatic motivation for what happens later. You know, it's why Bruce Wayne is driven to do what he does. Why Batman is driven to do what he does. Why the Joker is doing what he does. You know, it gives everyone motivation for what's going to happen. But to answer your question, it was unique in all the shows I've done with Mark in that I did not get to work with him. You would never know, though, would you?
Get you right here in the front.
Hey.
First of all, I want to say that it's a very crazy story about your past, Kevin. I'm really glad you brought me your name today.
Thank you so much.
And my question involves reporting for the Arkham series. So, do you remember if there's any line that you said in Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, or Arkham Knight that ended up being unused, that never actually was said in the game?
I mean, they give you thousands of lines for those.
Let me tell you, recording a game is so different than recording a movie or a television show. It is such a different experience because games, you do have to do it completely separately. You are alone because of the way the games are constructed. They have to have completely separate soundtracks. And you're alone in a booth at 4-hour blocks of time, and then you're given an hour off for a meal, and then you're put in for 4 hours again in a booth. And you're alone. And you're doing line after line after line after line after line. They say, oh, that's great. Now, could you do a little irony? You go line after line after line. Say, keep the irony. Now give us a little smile. Line with irony, line with irony, line with irony. Okay, now give us a little dagger in there. I mean, literally, by the end of the hour, you sort of forget how to speak English. You're going like that, you know, it's just, words aren't coming out right anymore. And you're still trying to keep the Batman character alive. You're trying to stay in the Batman voice, and you're trying to dramatically keep the scene alive. You know, you're trying to act. It's so hard to do because you have no one else to feed you. And it's just abstract lines out of the air because of the way that the game is going to be built. So it's not why you go into acting. You know what I mean? They can't train you at Juilliard for this kind of thing. It's just something. It's just one of those curveballs that life throws, and you just got to go with it and make the best of it you can. And then when you see the results, the Arkham games, which are so incredible and so amazing. I mean, they're amazing. I feel so proud to have been a part of it, and I'm so happy to have been a part of it. But to be honest, the process is a ball buster. It's a ball buster.
I know that you voiced Batman in the anime movie Batman Gotham Knight. And was the recording process very similar to recording regular anime, like basically similar to recording games?
Yeah, no. Any of the direct-to-video movies, the recordings are like doing recordings of the shows. It's like doing a play on tape. It's like doing a radio play or something. You have the other actors there. You're interacting with them. It's so much fun. It's so much fun. I love doing the direct-to-video movies.
We have a hand that was up the whole time he was answering that question. Yeah, right there. And she's walking.
Yeah.
So I think all that is already influenced by someone else. I mean, well, what I'm getting to is, when you were playing Batman way back then, are you sure you find over there someone influenced by, say, Michael Keaton or something?
I actually hadn't seen, Michael Keaton's movie had come out, I think the year before, or 2 years before. I actually hadn't seen it. Yeah, no. I actually didn't see that movie for a number of years. So no, for me it was a blank slate. Sure.
So the guy with the lightsaber, is that? Look, unique gets you points.
I think every actor that portrays that has got something unique table to offer. So this is not to disrespect anyone, but I just want to know, who's your favorite live action Batman?
Oh, that's a dangerous choice
That's a
he's
very
asking you
dangerous
to make,
question.
Kevin.
I thought it was a really weird choice that Warner Brothers didn't choose one person and have them do the franchise. Because traditionally that's what happens. Then when I started seeing all these different actors do it, I thought, this was kind of brilliant. Because it's always a different take on the role. There are just different ways of playing the role. There are things that each actor, I think, has brought that are really, really valuable. I think the one who's probably, I won't say I like any of them more than the others, because I've really thought everyone has brought something to it. I think the one who has probably gotten the best balance of Bruce Wayne and Batman is Ben Affleck in the most recent films. But that's not to diminish what Christian Bale has brought as Bruce Wayne, because he nails Bruce Wayne. I mean, he gets that dark, tragic, he gets that. And I'm a fan of Michael Keaton's. I mean, I like what a lot of them have brought. But I think Ben Affleck really gets the balance of both characters. For me, the trick that I found early on was that putting on the cape and cowl is not the mask. Putting on the suit and tie of Bruce Wayne, that's the mask. That's the suit of armor he puts on to face the world. When he's his most comfortable, when he's his most emotionally naked, it's when he's in the Batcave. That's where he's safest. That's where he can be who he is in his soul, you know what I mean? And then he puts on the persona of the playboy and the successful businessman, and that's the performance. So that was the key for me. And I think it led me to creating this sound that didn't sound forced and didn't sound artificial. A lot of actors, when they do the Batman voice, it sounds artificial. It sounds weird. It sounds like they have laryngitis. You know who I mean. And
He didn't say who.
I didn't say.
So we're all just assuming.
I just know.
Don't say Kevin Conroy said.
I didn't say anything.
That did not happen.
I didn't say. But it's because I think that happens because they're thinking of that as the performance, and I think the key is that it's not the performance. Bruce Wayne is the performance.
Next question right here. Wow. Again. You can't. I mean, I can't say. Lauren Lester and I have an unusual relationship just because he was the one that I worked with the most. And so, of course, I loved working with Lauren. He's a very talented actor. But again, everyone brings different things to different characters. Mark Hamill nails the Joker. He is my Joker. There's no question. He's the best Joker to me. But then I saw Heath Ledger. And I thought, oh my God, this is a whole different kind of crazy. You know? He's fantastic. He's not better. It's not better than Mark, but it's just a different kind of crazy from Mark. And I thought, I love what he's doing. And then Troy Baker brought a whole different kind of crazy. I mean, actors just bring something unique to the character, and you just can't. I just really try not to judge. Daredevil back there. You may not be able to see me, but I can see you. Project. Hit the back wall.
Well, if Warner Brothers makes a Batman Beyond game, would you be willing to voice act Old Man Bruce?
Of course. Any actor who says no to a job is an idiot.
Kevin, if Warner Brothers picks up the phone and says, we'd like to pay you money to do work,
Yeah, of course.
would you say no?
Oh, no, not me. I'm far too busy. Far too busy. Weeding in my garden.
Science officer here in the front.
In the original Batman series, you did an episode where the character from Bruce Wayne's childhood came to life essentially. He was voiced by Adam West. What was it like for you, the two of you as actors, to have to portray not only the characters of the
Yeah.
heroes in the series, but also the role of somebody who is a fan?
Yeah, I know. Well, it's an interesting question because I have to say, when I heard Adam West was coming in to do The Gray Ghost, I said, oh, God. I said, Andre, do I have to be there that day? You know, this is his world, and I've kind of, you know, I'm treading on his cape, you know. And she said, oh, he's so cool. He's so cool. He's so cool. And then he couldn't have been more gracious. Well, as you know, he's an incredibly wonderful guy. And it's very genuine. He's got a good heart. And he said to me, he came in, he threw his arms open, and he said, I hope you have as much fun with it as I have. He said, run with it. It's a blast to play the character, and I hope you have a great time. So we had a wonderful time. I had a great experience with a lot of the senior actors who came in to do the roles, like Adam West, like Ephraim Zimbalist Jr., my original Alfred. He was like a father to me. He was so wonderful. He was so caring. He was old Hollywood, as Adam is. There's that sort of gentlemanly respect for the other workers. It's just wonderful. So yeah, I love working with him.
Puddin' shirt right here.
So this episode where Batman came,
That was done. Andrea did that. It was Andrea's idea. And
Andrea just decided, I'm going to make Kevin sing.
No, she said to Bruce, you know, Kevin sings and he's got a good voice and he loves to sing. He said, I didn't know he likes to sing. I have been singing most of my life. The only time I've ever sung on stage was at the Public Theater. Joe Papp found out I sing. And so I did a production of Midsummer Night's Dream in Central Park at the Public Theater with Bill Hurt and Christine Baranski. It was a wonderful production, beautiful production. And they wrote a song for me to sing as one of the lovers in you know, Midsummer Night's Dream, which was wonderful. It's the only time I've sung on stage. Isn't that funny? In a Shakespeare play. It's so ridiculous. But the reason they put Am I Blue in is really because it was kind of an inside joke. They knew Kevin likes to sing. So they thought the only way that Bruce Timm would do it what would Batman sing? Batman wouldn't sing. They go, "Ooh, Am I Blue?" That's a great song for him. And then to have it be paying off a debt, which is what he's doing. So he has to do it. It was great. It was fun. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, go to Kevin Conroy, real Kevin Conroy, and my website. I post new songs every now and then. You can hear some.
So, all right, when are you dropping your EP? I mean, when's the vinyl hitting?
No, I just do it for my own love of saying. I
I'm
don't
telling
make
you,
anything
you're
out
leaving
of it.
money on the table, man.
Yeah, no.
We'll go over to the far side over there. Back behind you. I'll go to you next.
How do you've been Batman longer than anybody else? How does Batman stay fresh for you?
That's a really good question. Usually what I get asked is how has he evolved over 25 years? And my answer is he hasn't. The trick has been not to let him get stale. I found that the Batman fans are the most passionate people I've come across. They're just so loyal and so passionate about the character. You guys know more about the background than I do. You know, the fans are really incredibly invested in the story and in the character. Think about it. If someone lies to you in life, they can usually give you a pretty good poker face, but you can usually hear a lie before you see a lie. At least I know I can. I can tell if someone's lying to me by their voice better than I can tell by their face. If I was to fake it or to do something artificial, or if I didn't really go to that place in my gut to get the sound, you would hear it in a second. I've never allowed myself to do that. And whenever I've gotten really tired and maybe slipped into it, Andrea wouldn't let me. She'd say, "Do it again, nope. Do it again, you're not there." You've got to be true to this guy. He's a very pure character. And that's what the audience tunes into. So for me, the trick has been to remain true to that core of the character for 25 years. And man, that's been hard. That's really been hard.
Yeah, you look at.
So outside of Oklahoma City, there's an action figure museum owned by Kevin Stark, who designed a lot of Batman action figures.
Yeah.
Inside there is a Bat cave with a massive collection of Batman action figures.
Wow.
There's not enough toys for.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, did you know that?
No.
Kevin Stark, or-
No, I know who he is.
Oh, yeah.
But I didn't know about this place.
Yeah, it's fun.
I gotta check it out.
We're gonna get your flight change.
Yeah, I
You're
think we're all
take a
gonna
trip
check
to
it
Oklahoma
out.
City. There you go. Let's get this guy. He's having to hold his arm. He's been so passionate.
All right, so you've been working with Mark Hamill, for several years back in the past. I was curious as to, out of work, have you guys developed a friendship, like, for instance, after work, you go and grab a beer with.
Yeah, like do you go on road trips?
And if so, after said beers, do you guys use your voices together?
That'd be a scene, wouldn't it? If I was a drinker, that would be a funny scene. Drunk Batman and Joker. What did you? Don't look at me that way. We are very close. I love Mark, and we get along great. We don't tend to see a lot of each other outside the studio because our schedules, people's schedules. Acting is such a, he's in Europe half the time doing movies now. He's on the road. I'm at Comic-Cons or in the studio in Hollywood. And also, he lives in this incredibly beautiful house outside, north of LA. And I live right downtown near Hollywood. So we're in very different parts of the city. And so I don't get the chance to see a lot of them outside of work.
We've only got
But I'm a pretty private person. I actually don't see a lot of actors outside of work. I like to paint. I like to restore. I like to work with wood. I'm a pretty private person, actually.
We've got a few minutes left. I want to get as many of these questions in as we can. And if you don't get to ask your question, Kevin's going to be at his table all day tomorrow, except for when he's on stage with his friend Mark.
Yeah, we have a panel tomorrow.
You guys should not miss that. I had the pleasure and honor of moderating it for you guys in Toronto,
And Mark always has great stories to tell.
it is, as great as Kevin is on his own, as great as Mark is on his own, the two of them together, forget about it. Seriously,
Fun.
once in a lifetime.
It's fun.
So let's get you right here. I guess I see green highlights in your hair. Yeah. Oh, we'll get you in a minute, Joker. Hold on just a moment.
You've already said that one of your favorite things about playing or voicing Batman and how you relate to him is how he has the power. But with that aside, if you had to pick one superpower that you could have, which one would it be?
If you had to pick one superpower.
Well, I guess everyone wants to fly. I mean, that's amazing, to be able to fly. There you go. Yeah, everyone would want to fly, I think.
All right.
That's the one thing I love about swimming and about snorkeling. I love that feeling of weightlessness and that feeling of just floating with the fish. And, so to float with the birds, I would think it would be similar to that. It'd be wonderful.
All right, Joker who jumped the gun over here.
Okay, out of all the voiceovers for Batman you've done from the animated series, the Arkham games, which one was your favorite?
Could you pick just one?
It's hard to pick one. But I have to go back to Perchance to Dream. It was a wonderful movie. It's, I think, the best Batman movie of all the movies, including the live action. It's a great movie. You get the whole arc of the genesis of Batman, where he comes from, his tragic origins, his inability to have a normal life, and then his falling in love, but not being able to reconcile that.
Mask of the Phantasm?
Mask of the
Mask of the Phantasm.
That's not what I said.
You said for Chance to Dream. You're so
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, he loves that episode so
I do
much.
love that episode so much that it was a slip of the tongue.
It was
I'm sorry, I meant
an intentional
Mask of the
accidental slip.
Phantasm. Mask of the Phantasm. But I did love Perchance to Dream too.
Let's see. You with the is that a Spawn mask on your face?
Well, it was
All right.
so my best friend here, he's been through kind of a lot, and he's overcome a lot more than most people probably would, and he's about to have
Whoa. He is all on his own.
So I think it would be pretty awesome if you got to do that to himself and
Well, what's his name? Dustin. God bless you for what you've overcome. And I hope life brings you nothing but joy. I don't know what to say. Yeah. Hush is pretty cool.
You know what, Kevin? I hear Jim Lee's going to be here tomorrow. Maybe we could ask Jim Lee about
Let's
that.
ask Jim Lee. Hush is pretty cool.
Way back in the back, you got something in your hand. Yeah, you right there.
Was one.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, at the very back. Yeah, you.
Do you think sidekicks are underestimated and always compared to their mentors so much that fights like Batman versus the Red Hood or Batman and Nightwing always have are inevitable between the mentor and the sidekicks?
Or what inevitable?
Do you think sidekicks are underrated? Do you think that it's inevitable that they're kind of given short shrift, as it were? You know, how do you?
Well, they're given some short shrift. That's a tongue twister.
Sorry, I was giving you a
They're
tongue
given
twister at the very
some
end of the day.
short
Very good.
shrift, just because the focus of the show is on the lead, is on the Batman character or the Superman character, whatever. But those characters are important. The relationship between Batman and Robin is really important. It's a very paternal kind of relationship. So I think by nature of the fact that he is the lead of the show, he is the focus of the show, they are overshadowed somewhat. And they are there largely as a theatrical device to facilitate Batman or Superman, whoever the lead is. So they're inevitably going to be in a second position. That's just a theatrical truth, I think. But they're important.
Right there.
So one of my favorite episodes of Justice League animated series is episode Epilogue, where you have this great speech that you give to Ace. Do you remember anything about shooting that episode at all? If not, what would be the differences between?
You only did a few dozen.
I only did a few hundred. I'm sorry, I don't.
Well, then, what was the difference between? Was there any difference between like shooting Batman and Justice League?
Oh, God, yeah. Because in Batman, you know, it was me and the villain, basically. I had so much to do. Suddenly I was one of 5 or 7 or whatever it was.
Having to share your room.
Yeah, I had to share everything. And also, I was the outsider. He was really cast as the outsider, the one who couldn't fit in, which was fun to play, but it meant that I was, by nature, peripheral to the action often. So I just didn't have as much to do. But what was fun was when I did have something to say, it was always very powerful, because it was that sort of dark voice from the corner saying, "Oh, really?" You know, it was that kind of sarcastic, you know, joy killer. But no, I had much more to do in the previous shows. That's always fun.
We have time for a couple more. I'm going to go right here. Oh, what NDAs do you want to break today, Kevin?
You know, I can't. That's always
Any
so
lawsuits,
loaded,
Kevin?
because you want to tell people what you're working on, but you can't. I got into that mistake early on where I thought, oh, I'm promoting the show, so I'll tell people what I'm doing. And then you get calls from Warner Brothers like, you know, we're going to sue you if you keep talking.
Well, you could tell us just Justice League Action. This is the
Well, JLA, the new show Justice League Action, which is on now, which they have not yet picked up more of, but we did a lot as a first order. And that cast is fantastic. I mean, there's James Woods and Diedrich Bader, and
some guy named Mark Hamill. Doing a couple of voices.
Cloris Leachman, Carl Reiner. I mean, the cast is amazing. It's amazing. They got everybody in that show. So there's a lot of fun in that show.
Gonna go right here. Fill in the glasses. Yeah, you. I've seen you before.
Yeah. A lot of times, you can base the energy of an episode on the villain. And you mentioned Mark Hamill quite a few times, but from the Batman animated series to Justice League Unlimited, who were the voice actors that really made you have to step your game up? Like if it was Power Smooth or if it was Clancy Brown.
Who was a particularly powerful partner?
Out the Batman.
I hate to admit this, but the more interesting thing about Batman, the animated series, and all the Batman shows, are the villains. The villains are phenomenal, which is why Arkham Asylum was such a great idea for a video game, because all these insane, crazy, exotic people are locked up in the same building. None of them were killed, because Batman doesn't kill. So the idea that they're all there and Batman gets trapped in there with them was brilliant, because Those, to be honest, those are the really fun roles to play. Those characters are so exotic. And the actors who were really great, so many. I have to point out Clancy Brown, who's phenomenal. John Glover, who did the Riddler. John, I've done many plays with over the years. I've known for about 40 years, 35 years. We've done a lot of Shakespeare together. He's a phenomenal actor. I love working with John. On JLA, Dietrich Bader, I've become really good friends with. He's a lot of fun to play with. He plays Buster Gold, and he's nuts. He's completely nuts. Booster Gold. Buster Gold.
But hey, you're giving him a new character.
Yeah, but it's the great thing about Andrea's casting. There have been so many great actors, but definitely Clancy, definitely John Glover. I'm not thinking right now, but there have been a lot of them.
An embarrassment of riches.
Well, I hate to admit it, but the shows are really about them. They have a lot more to do than Batman does.
So one last audience question. We're going to wrap things up, and it's going to be you right here, young lady with the flowers.
What animated series episode would you like to see adapted into live action film?
Oh, is there an
wow.
episode that you would love to see as the basis of a
Well,
feature?
Perchance to Dream actually would be incredible.
This panel brought to you by Perchance
And I'll
to Dream.
do all 5 roles.
Well, Kevin, just earlier today, just before we brought you in here, I brought you in to say hi to Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, the legendary guys who've been doing Batman for 5 years. And as I alluded to earlier, you've been doing this role in a way that has defined the character for so many people. And have you ceased to be surprised when you're introduced to somebody who, oh, this is the new hot person who's writing this character, who's producing this game that has based so much of the way that they see Batman on the way that you performed it? What is it like to have to wrestle with that?
It's funny when you. It's weird. It always amazes me. You just do what you do in life to get through. You just go from job to job to job, and you look back, as I was saying earlier, and you think, oh my God, I've done 25 years of this. I've established all this work. When you're doing it, you don't realize you're doing it. And I still don't have that perspective. When I'm going through TSA at the airport, and they look at the thing and they go, why is Batman going to LA? I go, how do you know? They go, well, I know who you are. Everyone knows who you are. I'm always so shocked. A cop car in New York, I live most of my time in New York, I was crossing Broadway, and I hear the cop car, and I thought, oh man, what did I do now? And he pulls me over, and out on the loudspeaker, I go, Batman, pull over. And I looked at him and he goes, you're Kevin Conroy. We want our picture with you. These 2 cops get out. I mean, big, beefy New York cops get out with their phones and they want to get a picture with Batman. I said, this is just too crazy. So it always amazes me. And I said to them, how do you know? I'm a voice.
So 2 little things, everybody. Again, 2 p.m. tomorrow in the big A hall upstairs. Kevin and Mark, don't miss that. Kevin is going to be here tomorrow during the day. How many, just out of curiosity, how many of you out here, this is your first Kevin Conroy Q&A that you've gone to?
Hello. Did you have a good time?
Let's hear it one more time for Mr. Kevin Conroy. Thank you.